everyone, and welcome back to Purple Noon, a podcast. I am Stephanie Conti, and I am here with my Monsieur Gustave to my zero, Savanna Lanausse.
That's the best one we've done in a while.
I know, because it's the only film that we've seen where it's kind to make this connection. Every other film that we could have referenced would have been a very sad or very like it just would have been an insult, you know, to make that connection. But how are you doing, Savanna?
I'm good. My mic is done, guys, completely. So if I sound a little off, I'm sorry. I don't know how I did it.
Bad luck with microphones.
I do.
This is your second microphone.
I swear I'll take better care that I don't even know how I broke this one. My hand flew.
Would you like me to remind you?
It's
because I mentioned Lady Gaga.
Oh, yes.
And you went, woo, and you smacked your hand into your microphone and flung it across the room.
Yeah, it's done now. It's really not going to work. I will be kinder to the next one. I will be way, way better to the. But
honestly,
one.
like just even talking right now and stuff, your mic sounds good. Like, don't be insecure. It sounds good. And I think the only thing I'll just need to be, or I'll have Zach do, is just increase your volume just a little bit, which is not bad considering like I've heard people like on Zoom, like when I go in class on Zoom, their microphone sounds like a cheese grater. You know, it's like, what device are you using to get this audio? You ever see that one video where it's like, it was like during COVID, like when everyone was on Zoom classes and stuff. And the teacher was like, all right, anyone have any questions? And someone left like a robot, modulator on their voice. So when they just spoke and like asked a question, it was just like, yeah. And it was like, great. I understood that well. Like that's how some people in my class genuinely sound. I also like, I'm just gonna dunk on my class for a second, if you will. Some of these people, I don't know if they just have slippery fingers because they're listening to Zoom. Like you could tell their camera's off when our camera's supposed to be on and everything like that. But all of a sudden, like when I go into a Zoom, I'm looking at that microphone and I'm immediately going, it's got to be off. It's got to be off. It's got to be off. And I do multiple tests to make sure it's off. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Literally middle of class, someone will, with their camera off and everything like that, not paying attention, will accidentally turn their microphone on because they're not holding their phone or anything like that. They're just chiming in and stuff. And we got people who are busy. But I've seen people work on the clock while they're in class. I've seen people work in hospitals while they're in class, okay? Pushing around a pill cart in a hospital. Like the people think like I don't understand, like I understand like money and everything like that, of course, but in terms of like just don't come to the class, man. Like this is a legality. But we will have people who will turn on their mic middle of class and it sounds like a car, like a Honda Odyssey driving 80 miles on I-4, and it's the most insane sounding noise. And then they're not paying attention to us because they've muted us, right? So we're like, turn off your mic. Turn off your mic. And we could see, because you know how the window pops up whenever they talk?
Yeah.
So we start calling them by their name, and then the teachers don't know how to mute them. The teachers have the capability to mute them, but none of them have been trained in Zoom. So they're just like, they're just like, do you have a question? And then we're just trying to figure out, like, how do we tell this teacher that this person is probably not paying attention and they've just accidentally turned off their microphone? And so, like, it always is the clearly, like, someone will chime in and then go like, and then it'll immediately cut out, and the teachers will be like, do you have a question? Like, it's always the weirdest thing.
Just random laughing during your very serious pharmacy school class.
Someone a few weeks ago, actually, in the middle of class, when they signed in, they never turned their mic off. And usually it's a default setting, but I think she might have just like accidentally hit it multiple times and turned on her mic. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of class, we just hear her go, like, and start cursing, and it, like, just to herself, like, because we could see her video was on, right? And we just hear like, shit, my printer's not working, like just loud as hell. It was the funniest thing. And the teacher's just like, and we see her realize that her mic is on, and she immediately turns off her screen, turns off her audio, and leaves the Zoom.
How you guys get learning done is beyond me.
Dude, I don't know. I really feel like they should have had a Zoom 101 course. Like, I feel like if you're going to do any online course, it's got to be a legal requirement. Because fact that you have teachers who are like, I cannot give you my presentation because I do not know how to make myself host is insane how many times that happens. So, yeah. So, yeah, if you don't know Zoom, learn it. And if you don't have a good microphone, get a good microphone, which we will be working on for Savanna.
Please.
But have you seen, besides some of the movies that we've been talking about and everything like that, have you watched anything new as of recent?
Like 2023 new, or
anything, just like maybe new to you? Did you go back and rewatch an old fave? Any of that type of stuff?
Oh, you know what I saw recently that was nice? I saw The Wizard of Oz, a little classic. I've only seen that movie when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, other than that, not really. I've been wanting to go to the movies for a really long time, but there's just not a lot out right now.
I was going to ask, like, if you could go and see something, like, what would you see?
There's nothing to see, really. Like, in the theaters right now. I have a feeling a lot of the stuff that we're looking forward to is going to be more towards the summer. But
yeah,
right now till, I want to say July, it's just going to be a little dead.
And I'm even surprised, like, I kind of wonder if they're, like, flubbing the numbers, right? Because, first of all, the new Ant-Man movie came out, which I didn't even realize came out. I'm gonna be real with you. I was like, really? It's out? But they're like, oh yeah, like it's it's made like $135 million the first week it's open. I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure? Like, Ant-Man is still pulling these numbers? And I don't hear anyone talking about it.
It got pretty like weird reviews. Like, it got really, really mixed like reviews, and it didn't do well like critically. I don't know a single person that saw Ant-Man either. So I don't know.
Oh, that just totally reminded me. Okay, I need to ask you.
Okay.
Did I tell you about, and I'm not going to mention any names, right?
Okay.
But I saw, and it's related to movies and movie going, right?
Right.
Did I tell you that I saw someone make a post about Creed 3?
No, what happened to Creed 3?
So some people, like, it was just the weirdest post I'd seen because it was so unexpected, right? I was just scrolling through, and within one day, I saw multiple people tweeting about, and I was like, and people we know, and it just, and you can like, maybe you like, there's just information I don't know, but it first started with me seeing about 3 people claim they were like, oh, Creed 3 is the best Christian film I've seen so far.
Creed 3? Are you sure?
Creed 3. And I'm like, am I missing something? Like, is there like a subplot or something I don't know about Creed and everything? And then all of a sudden, I'm on Facebook. I'm never on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, and I see someone where it's like a whole church went to go see Creed 3 all together as like one big ceremony, right?
Really?
And then I saw people, and then it was the weirdest post because it was like, I shouldn't say it was weird. It was just so fascinating, right? It was so interesting because it went like, it was like a very much a, like, oh, God's glory is great. We saw Creed 3. And then we found a distressed woman outside of the theater. We all prayed for her. And it's the most
Aw.
insane, and that's very sweet, but it's just the most insane photo because you just see massive amounts of like Creed 3 promotion as they're all praying around this woman. And I was just like, it was just, I saw all those posts in one day. So I was just so taken aback by it. I felt like I didn't know that like Creed 3 was a Christian movie or something like that, you know?
What a wholesome turn. I mean, good for those people.
But it was just, it caught me so, and I'm not, of course, dissing anything or anything like that, but like it just caught me so off guard. Like I was like, is Creed 3 a Christian film? Like
When I
it
tell
was.
you, I have not heard. Okay, one.
You're keeping up the posts. I hear you looking for the posts.
I'm like Creed 3. Jesus, no. I have not seen any of the Creeds. I'm gonna admit to you. So I have literally zero context or clue on what. I also haven't heard a lot about Creed 3. So I'm a little
That's
surprised.
why the only thing that I saw about it was Christian related. So I was like taken aback. And first it started with someone in our family. You could probably guess who, and I'm not going to name names, but it started with
Okay.
someone in our family where it was like, this movie shows that God's will is great. I'm like, okay. And then it just kept happening with other people. And I just kept seeing similar, and it wasn't the same post. It was like a similar picture of them outside a movie theater with the Creed poster. And then like, just another conversation about it. I no joke. I think I saw 3 people mention it in terms of like Creed 3 and Christianity. And then I saw this massive post with all the people praying outside of, I think it was the Disney Springs AMC. It was just so
What?
fascinating. It was an experience. It's kind of like when we saw the photo of like the people watching Solo at a barbecue,
Wow.
but in the opposite direction, in a
But, like,
totally
yeah,
different opposite
in
direction.
like the wholesome I mean, that's great. Like, I'm happy to hear that. That is just probably the most random series. Like, I would have not even guessed.
I found the photo. I'm gonna text it to you. But yeah, like it was just like so like I just felt like my whole timeline was like, you will know that Creed 3 is a Christian film. I'm like,
But
okay,
who
what's
wrote
going on?
but like also I didn't know because I'm pretty sure let me see
I
this.
just
Let me see this
texted you the photo.
Let me see this photo.
That's like a lot of people too. That's a lot of people in one party to go see Creed 3.
No, I understand what you're saying because like it's nice, like they're praying, but like the photo is also like just the placement of everything is very odd. I understand.
Yeah. Like you have Michael B. Jordan in the background, like
ready to square up. Is he okay? I just have a lot of questions. Is he Christian? I'm pretty sure he directed the film. That's the only thing I've
did
heard about
he?
this movie. I'm almost positive he directed the last Creed. So I'm just wondering, like, it's just a really weird series. It's great, like, as somebody,
Wow, he did direct it. You're totally right.
as another fellow Christian, I'm happy to hear that. I'm just I completely missed the boat on this one. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I thought this was a boxing. I don't know. I could be wrong. I thought, wow, okay, all right. I guess I'm seeing Creed 3. I guess.
Yeah, like it was just so interesting to see all that. And I remember like I was telling my dad about it and he was like, he was just trying to think. He's like, I've seen Creed 1 and 2. He's like, I didn't think it was a Christian film, So it felt like I had broken some type of time loop, right? To be seeing so many posts relating to such a specific movie and such a specific subcategory of Creed 3 and Christianity. Like I felt like I had broken the matrix somewhere, and it was fascinating. It was utterly fascinating.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty random. I'm not gonna lie. I just always thought that like the Creeds were like kind of violent and like more.
That's what I thought. That's
You
what
know what
I'm
I'm saying?
thinking.
That's why I'm a little. I mean, I'm not saying it's definitely not a bad thing. Like I'm happy to hear that, but like I am definitely taken aback because
And
at
it's
least
typing. I'm just hearing Google
like,
research.
Jesus and Creed 3? No, I'm only, by the way, when I'm looking this up, I'm only getting the Apostles' Creed. So clearly, not everybody's on the same
God,
page
is
about
that where it's lost in translation? Did they think Michael B. Jordan? Oh my God. No, I don't think so. I don't think that would be it. But that was just
I'm not
that.
getting anything about, yeah, I have to, you know what? I'm going to go see this movie now and I'm going to give you a review because I have to, now that I saw that photo, I have to go see the movie, clearly. I have to go see
Bestie,
this for
I
myself.
found okay. I just looked up. I looked it up. I found a post that says Creed 3, a movie review for Christians.
But is it Christian or does it have like Christian like themes? Because there's a difference. And I feel like which either or is great, but I feel like it might not be like a Christian movie. I just feel like it might have some Christian themes. Because
Possibly. Well, I mean,
that
like
would
that's
be a
like
real
there's like a lot
turn.
of learning stories and morality and things like that. Whenever there's any type of like
Okay.
sports film and all stuff like that. So I'm so like I just like it was just so it like oh my God, here we go. Here's another one. Thinkchristian.net fighting for forgiveness in Creed 3. I'm
What?
dying at the sound of you just like rapidly
So
googling that.
what? Okay.
You gotta let me know how it is.
News of the day for me. Oh my God, no. If this is good, next movie night, we're watching a Christian film, guys, and it's Creed 3.
It's still in theaters, bestie. It's
Oh,
still in
okay.
theaters. So maybe because you've been wanting to go to the movies, maybe this Creed 3 is the one that's you're gonna love.
Oh yeah, we're learning about Jesus tonight, guys. No, I'm kidding. But that sounds great. I'm happy to hear that. I will be seeing that movie then.
I really hope the only thing I can really hope is not only that you enjoy it, but I hope you find yourself in a similar circumstance where I did. Like maybe you look around and you're like, I go to church with all these people. Like I hope there's some like another connection, like just adding another layer of deepness to
Oh
this and
yeah, it's
another
like
layer of depth to
of the
this
Matrix,
circumstance.
absolutely.
I hope so. I hope you walk out and see someone being prayed for. And it just adds a whole nother layer to this matrix glitch that I feel like I have found.
Can you imagine? Like, no, and how funny is this? Like, oh yeah, I became a Christian. I found the Lord in Creed 3.
After watching Michael B. Jordan's Creed 3. I
And by
mean,
the
people
way,
have found God in other ways. People have found
that's
God in
true.
other ways too. So I feel like finding God and finding Christianity through Creed 3 is actually like that's a nice way to find
It's a
it,
good
you know?
story. By the way, I'm
Some
not
people
making fun
find
of
it like crazy, crazy, crazy.
I mean, it's definitely like if someone told me that, I would ask them a lot of questions. But by the way, I'm not making fun. Like I'm literally Christian. I just think this is very funny, very
Oh
random.
no, and same, and you know, like I
Yeah.
always try to be because even
No,
though
no,
I don't identify
it's
as a
all in good
Christian,
fun,
it
Bessie.
well, it was also just such like I said, a glitch in the matrix. And when I say that, I don't mean that real seriously, guys. I just mean like it was such a huge coincidence that in a 24-hour span, I saw four people simultaneously talk about Creed 3 and its Christian values that I was not expecting to see that day.
I genuinely like. I haven't heard. That's just. It's just so funny to me because I just haven't heard about Creed 3. I haven't heard nothing
Yeah.
about Creed 3, and I guess there's this whole revolution around it. Now I gotta see the movie. I gotta see what's going on.
I want a Creed 3 review the next time we talk. Okay?
Yeah, 100%.
But for now, we're not going to talk about a Christian movie. A movie that we're going to be talking about today is The Grand Budapest Hotel. Before I begin the reviews, is Savanna any other films or anything like that you would like to discuss? Any other gossip, bochinche, or anything related to the film world that you would like to mention?
Very quickly, our friend of the pod, our homeboy Danny, recently reached out, and I think I told you this already, but he told us a fun fact after our On the Waterfront episode. And he did tell me that I believe it's Netflix is in the works to produce a East of Eden, I think it's miniseries or limited series, starring I think Florence Pugh and produced by Zoe Kazan. So that was a really, really interesting piece of
Oh,
information.
the film fans and community, especially those who do not like Elia Kazan, are gonna eat that up. They're gonna eat
Yes.
that up. Which I look, I mean, like Zoe Kazan, like she's get that bread, get that bread. She's worked in film and everything like that
Yeah, yeah.
before, and
Yeah.
everything. Like like do what you got to do. Like especially since like it is her grandfather, right? And if this is going to be something where it attempts to honor her grandfather, then so be it. But that's but like my thing is like when I think of East of Eden and like the possibility of a new East of Eden, I don't think Florence Pugh because I'm thinking of it like that there's going to be a male lead like the original. So is there a male lead already casted or not yet?
Well, I only know what our homeboy told me, but I don't know anything about. I besides from him, I haven't heard anything about this, so I don't know. I mean, I also wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if they try to do like a switcheroo with maybe Florence Pugh being the main character and
Yeah.
another lead that's a woman. I wouldn't be surprised, but I just don't know. I do think it's very, very, very early.
Yeah.
So
Oh, and you've been watching Daisy Jones and the Sixth, right?
I have.
How's that going? I know you've been doing like I see it kind of leaching into like some areas of your life like fashion choice and music. So I'm
Oh,
assuming
I'm dyeing
that
my
you
hair
like
that
it.
color ASAP. I'm dyeing my hair that color she has in the show. I do like it. I read the book, and there are some pretty, actually big differences from the book and the show. But I do really enjoy the show. I really like Riley Keough. She's a really good actress, and I
Mhm.
definitely recommend it. It's really entertaining, very entertaining, and the book's great too.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, other movie news that I found out, or actually TV news. So, there are new updates to the Fallout TV show that Amazon is releasing, and it
Spill.
looks insane. So, already, because I'm a huge fan. If you've listened long enough, you already know that I'm a pro gamer. I'm not a pro gamer, but I play a lot of video games, and one of them being the entire series of like Fallout. My favorite being Fallout New Vegas, but let's not get superior over each other here now, shall we? So I was like flipping out when I found out that they are going to be adapting Fallout into a TV show, not based on any of like the main storylines from the games, but that they were going to create their own new world. And of course, I was like, okay, like I'm nervous and blah blah blah. But then I realized the writer behind this, there's only one writer accredited right now, and it is Jonathan Nolan, Chris Nolan's brother, who has helped him written countless of movies. So already I have a little bit of hope for that. And then there's some oh I'm sorry, Jonathan Nolan is a writer and director, and then there's another writer named Lisa Joy, and she's done like things like Westworld. So I'm like, okay, this could be on the right track. But then
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course they start casting, and the first person who they announced to be casted was, and I'm going to say it, friend of the show, even though he's not a friend of the show. We met him once and we said hi, and it was amazing. Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes,
So he
sweet
is going to
man.
be a lead on the show. But now they've also announced that in another main character is going to be Moises Arias.
What?
Yeah, which I always liked him as an actor, not only from like Hannah Montana, but I always thought he was incredible in Ender's Game. Like I always thought like, oh wow, like he deserves so much more roles and exposure because he was fantastic in Ender's Game. And so yeah, so he's been casted in this as well as Walton Goggins, who was the sheriff in the Hateful Eight. So far, I'm getting pretty excited.
It's a pretty
And
good
the
cast.
set images look absolutely insane. Like, I genuinely, like, just based on how the sets alone are going, I definitely feel like they are putting max effort in to honor the way and the overall atmosphere of Fallout, which I'm excited for. And then there's the Silent Hill 2 movie, which qualms. I have qualms with
Why? This is your
because
thing.
I know. the Silent Hill 2 movie. It's being done by the original director of the first Silent Hill movie, which I liked his, even though the story was a little bit off, he captured the atmosphere of Silent Hill so well. I say that as if I've been there in real life, you know. But um all of a sudden I'm reading the official plot line for Silent Hill 2, and it's supposed to be like they've been saying like, yeah, it's going to be based off the game. It's going to be based off Silent Hill 2. All of a sudden, I'm reading it and a name is introduced that I've never seen before. That's not in any of the Silent Hill games. And I even double checked and I looked it up. It was never mentioned. And now they're saying that this person who's never been mentioned before is a main character. So, because I'm obsessive and I did my research and I had already been saving like from a few months ago, I found this like one really unique picture of a scan copy of a like an official Silent Hill like little book, like a little like free booklet, and it had like character inspirations in it. So there's a character named Jacob Crane in this new Silent Hill film that never existed beforehand. But as I was looking through, I found a comment left on like what like the development of the main character was supposed to be like. And it said that in the initial stages of the scenario, he was a character who had two different personalities. So I'm thinking that they're not going with the Silent Hill 2 that we know. They're going to go with the Silent Hill 2 that was never released and ultimately ended up being changed because they were going to
Ooh.
do a so his wife's name is actually the same name of a Jack the Ripper victim. So I think they're going to try to do a Jack the Ripper type of scenario with him and like a double personality. I probably, this French director is probably always like oy vey or whatever the French say, ooh la la, you know, because I'm just dismantling this storyline from one image I found a few months ago. But I think it's I'm hoping, I think he'll capture the atmosphere, but it's still like it's a lot of pressure to, and you know I love Silent Hill too, and I'm sure you know the story well. It's a lot of, and you know the cult following behind it. A lot of
Oh yeah.
pressure
Yeah.
to start changing things like that. But I hope it
Abs-
goes well.
we'll pray it doesn't disappoint because this is your livelihood. Literally.
I just need a release date for the second game. They've already released the trailer because I get nervous with this company. Because you know they made a game with Norman Reedus as like the main character, and it was called Silent Hills. And they released a trailer during the Super Bowl 5-ish years ago. And then they said like 4 months later, actually, we're scrapping the entire project.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've
See,
done
the
that. So
trust
I'm like,
issues.
don't do this to me. Don't bid on it. And then of course someone posted like Konami had their worst profit in years. I'm like, don't do this to me. Don't tease me and then cancel it. So yeah, so Silent Hill, this was my annual little spot to talk about Silent Hill, and now I'm completed. So anything else you would like to say, Bestie, before talking about Grand Budapest Hotel?
I think we just gotta jump in.
All right. So, Grand Budapest Hotel is a film that came out in 2014. It is about a writer that encounters the owner of an aging high class hotel who tells him of his early years serving as a lobby boy in the hotel's glorious years under an exceptional concierge. This is a pretty well known movie, but if you didn't know, it is directed by Wes Anderson. And like with any other Wes Anderson film, it has a slew of cast members. So, we have our main leads as M. Gustav as Rolf Fiennes. I believe it's pronounced as Fiennes.
Yes.
We have Tony Revolori as Zero. And throughout the entire mix, we have F. Murray Abraham, Adrian Brody, William Defoe, Jeff Goldblum, Harvey Keitel, Jude Law, Bill Murray, Ed Norton, Saoirse Ronan, Leah Seydoux, Tilda Swinton, and pretty much any other person who has ever been in a Wes Anderson film
Pretty
before.
much. Yeah.
So this film is a part of the Criterion Collection. It actually got added in a few years ago. Like probably, I want to say like maybe 3-4 years after the film came out.
Yeah.
But when was your, and I feel like I think we've seen the movie together, or if not, we've definitely have seen it in like a similar time span and things like that. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely feel like this is a movie we've probably seen at least bits and pieces of before.
Yeah, for sure. I had seen the movie. It's been a while. I had seen. I'd say 75% of the movie before I did today. So I'd seen majority of it a few years ago, and this was the first time where I actually like sat through it and watched the whole thing.
Okay, so with that being said, so I remember when during like the 2015, 2014 Oscars, I was like in love with this film. I actually have the entire completed script, like signed by some people of the cast. I got it as like a Christmas present, things like that. I don't know if it's legit or
Ooh.
not, but I'd rather just keep it and think that it is real and not try to prove it. Um, but yeah, like I was a huge fan of this film when it first came out. So I guess kind of having your full 100% experience with this film, what are your thoughts? Like what, you know, did you get any more from the 75% that, or from that 15% that you lost?
Yeah, I mean, when I was watching it, I legitimately was just like, I don't remember the last time I saw either in theaters or just in my home like a legit comedy. And not only is this probably Wes Anderson's one of his best films, I'd say it's probably my favorite film of his, but it's probably like one of the best like buddy films of all time. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was genuinely funny. Um, I was entertained the entire time.
Yeah, like I remember when I first watched this movie, it felt so different because I loved the dialogue. I thought the dialogue was
Yes.
written so beautifully, but I love how there are just complete moments where it breaks and like this facade that this character has been trying to like bring, like the Gustav character has been trying to portray and poison stuff. Like I love it just when he would just give up mid sentence and just go, oh, screw it, whatever. And then just like I really thought that was funny and really a unique role to have. Usually like with someone so poised and stuff like that, they don't really ever break on their own on their own accord. Like I feel like a lot of comedies, right, they kind of with someone like who's a rigid character who's about to break, whether they become soft or when they become like angry or anything like that, and it's supposed to be funny, usually it's like a lot of moments until they burst essentially, and
Yeah.
then it's all dumped and revealed and it's supposed to be a big moment. But I really enjoyed getting these like complete breakdowns of his characters like periodically,
Yes.
and from here and there. One of my favorite parts of the film is towards the end when Gustav is hanging off the cliff and he's just reciting poetry,
Yes.
and he's saying something like me thinks me breathes me, and he's just like reciting some type of like Wordsworth, or I don't know who he's exactly referring to or if it's his own original dialogue, but definitely some type of poem. And just in the nick of time he's able to be saved, but his whole poetry slew that he was saying and stuff immediately gets destroyed by a holy shit, you got him, get me out of here, help me, and things like that. So I really loved, and Ralph Fiennes is a powerhouse when it comes to acting. Like,
Oh yeah, I don't think he gets nearly enough credit as like he's such a diverse actor. He's been in romance films, dramas, comedies. He's played like several villains, Voldemort, Chef from Menu. Are you kidding? And there's also something so natural about I mean in general with the film, but there's something so natural about the comedy in this movie. It does not feel forced. It all just feels very just flowy. I laughed the entire film. I will say everybody in this movie made me laugh at one point. Every role, and I think that's very unique.
yeah, like and everyone's delivery is so good.
Yes.
Even like these characters who you don't even know their name, right? Like
No,
in the
yeah.
beginning when the author, when he's older and he's talking to the camera and he looks to the side, and I think what is his grandson just starts coming out with a little cap gun and just starts shooting him. But then like a few seconds later he goes up, puts his arm on his grandfather's shoulder and goes, sorry, and then just deadpans into the camera. Like the delivery of all these different characters is so good, and it's so unique too. Like I feel like with Wes Anderson films, sometimes it can be really difficult to section out the characters from one another. But
Right.
I feel like this film does such a good job at giving everyone a specific set of qualities, characteristics, and all things like that. I also think that I think Gustav as a character, like as a whole, is probably one of the best written comedy characters of all time. A
Yeah.
poised man who's not afraid to get filthy in his language and stuff, but also like very self-aware while also being simultaneously like totally unrealistic. Like, like when he's in the jail and he's
Yes.
like, if I know anything, I know that when I'm in prison, I cannot be a candy ass. But then also escaping prison and going, where's my cologne? Now I smell like crap. Where's my cologne? Like, I think he's such a well written character and probably like one of the best, like characters, I think, of like the 2000s or maybe even the 2010s so far.
Well, I mean, I think also him and I think the character Zero
Yes.
um, just works so well together. Like you, by looking at them, you wouldn't think it works, but it works so great, and it's just genuinely one of the best buddy movies I've seen in a long time. I One of my favorite parts of the movie is when Zero is describing his workday, and it's very quick, it's very efficient, it's like he's very straightforward with it. He's a whole slave because
Yeah.
essentially he says, "Oh, I work like Monday to Saturday with like a half day on Sunday, and then I work 5 a.m. to midnight." So
Yeah.
he's getting 5 hours of sleep and like a 6 hours to himself a week to himself. And it's
Yeah.
so funny. The sermon being taught at the second lunch of the day, I screamed because it was just he was talking about rudeness. There's so many great moments of, and they just they work so well off each other. So I was really excited to see that. I think most people should refer to it as a buddy movie for sure.
100%. And I think what makes this movie so good too is Wes Anderson and his crazy ability to be so patient with scenes. Like a lot of the funniest stuff is because we're seeing glimpses of an entire scene being drawn out without any full skips. Like we're almost getting like little tidbits of what's going on. So like there's a
Right.
scene where Jeff Goldblum is being followed by William Dafoe's character and
Ugh,
showing like there was no
Mr.
need to show
Defoe.
the there was no need to show all the details of this museum and showing like, oh, we see the character turn right. Like there's a whole shot just to show that the character is turning right towards a door and things like that. And those scenes aren't necessarily needed, and you definitely don't need to like stop the camera, pick it up, put it elsewhere, start, stop, all that type of stuff. He
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much has a stop motion type of directing with
Hmm.
certain scenes because it's almost like a multicam setup, but every position is fixed in a different area and chopped. So it's almost like someone cutting through like a security camera, right? And just seeing all these different various, and it's a gorgeous, it's like the prettiest security
Yes.
camera ever because every shot is just filled with something and there's so much amount of detail. Like I can only imagine how long it takes to film these scenes where even like something like that where there's no real dialogue exchange, it's just Defoe in increments getting closer and closer to Goldblum. And I really appreciate that. You can tell that he has a lot of patience to be able to do something like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think one very unique staple about Wes Anderson is he's definitely a director of like stimulation.
Yeah.
Um, Whether it's like dialogue heavy, the audience doesn't get bored or fidgety because like there's just so much color movement just happening around the dialogue or just happening in general. And I think that's just very unique to Wes Anderson. When you think about an aesthetic director, when you think about color, when you think about like vibrant movements, you do think about Wes Anderson, and even specifically this movie.
Oh my God. You know, because I was wondering, I just looked up information and this makes sense. This makes so much sense. So I was wondering if Wes Anderson, because I don't really ever hear anything about Wes Anderson unless there's a Wes Anderson movie currently out.
Yeah,
So I was like just looking up some more information about him, like where did he, if he even did study film, where did he get his start and everything like that. Are you familiar with the writer Edgar Rice Burroughs?
I am not.
His great grandfather was Edgar Rice Burroughs, who created Tarzan and John Carter.
Oh my gosh.
So I totally can see how his, and not to say necessarily like this is a great grandfather, maybe he never even met him and stuff like that, but I can totally see like the colors, the imagery, and everything like that just kind of spilling over
Sure.
some generations into his own work, which is very cool. Like that's very, very cool. That's such a unique thing. His favorite movie does surprise me.
Okay.
Rosemary's Baby.
I no, I would have never guessed. The guy looks like do you see how he dresses, by the way? I would have not guessed that. Very regal. A
Yeah.
lot of coats, a lot of like beige coats when I think of Wes
British.
Anderson.
British
Yes,
even.
very British attire. I would have not have guessed that. I would have
So
thought like period pieces.
yeah, and I say he's British, but I'm also realizing that this man's from Texas.
Oh, wow.
Why did I think this man was a Brit?
Because of the way he dresses.
That's valid. That's valid. I don't know why. Like I think it's just because, and I will say maybe because of what just watching a Grand Budapest Hotel and it having obviously very very thick European inspirations and stuff behind it and everything. But even when I maybe Rushmore, I could see it, but like a lot of his newer films, they don't feel American, if that makes sense. And I shouldn't say that because I feel like Royal Tenenbaums and things like that, like and Moonrise Kingdom, are definitely very. But like he has such a unique directing that I would almost think that his directing is foreign because it's more akin to like French, Italian, even like Japanese, German directing than American directing.
No, he definitely has an affinity for Europe. Like, come on.
That's
I
crazy.
would you're
That's
telling me this man's from Texas? Come on. Come on, no.
Houston.
What about there's nothing about him that screams Texas to me. Look at the outfit he wears. It's a lot of sweater vests. It's a lot of like a lot of his clothing reminds me of like the stuff like the Royals wear. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He does not look American also. I know that's a very weird thing to say because we are a country of a melting pot, but he does look European. So I don't blame you at all for I thought he was European, 100%. I
So
thought,
just
yeah.
looking through, apparently, like in terms of his upbringing, even though he has that connection with his grandfather and everything like that, apparently he actually went to school in Texas and studied philosophy. And in college, he met Owen Wilson. And that's when he said,
Uh,
"Hey, I want to make a short film." And they ended up making Bottle Rocket with Owen and his brother Luke. Then I think it's kind of like a Kevin Smith story because literally they entered it into Sundance and it got critically acclaimed. Then they were able to fully adapt it into like a
like a
bigger film, a
film.
bigger production. And then from there, then Rushmore and things like that. And then that's when he started working with like Bill Murray. So okay, I can see respect, respect,
Okay,
humble
but
beginnings. We love that.
wait, but think about it. Like genuinely think about this. He probably has a southern accent. Isn't that wild? He probably has like a Texas accent.
That is absolutely insane. And I know to everyone else listening to this, they'd be like, what does that matter? It matters in our mind.
It does matter a
Like
lot.
the fact that there could ever be a potential, a possibility. Like I'm thinking I could never ever be in a room with Wes Anderson. Meanwhile, in reality, he's like 3 states away.
Yeah, no,
That is
exactly.
crazy. That's
And
like
he just
if you
yeah.
told me, who are you going to meet first, Sir Ian McKellen or Wes Anderson? I probably would have said Sir Ian McKellen first. like based on geographics and stuff, because you don't hear anything about Wes Anderson. So
No,
like I
I
said,
always thought he
until a
lived
movie
in
is out.
France. I thought for some reason he like because a lot of like you said, a lot of his stuff is lately has just been very Europe adjacent. So I just thought like, oh, he's paying homage to where he's. I don't know. I'm a little shook, but you know what? We love a Southern homie.
Is he
We love a
working on
Texas boy.
anything new? I obviously the last thing that he did was French Dispatch. But is
Yes,
there any other, like, does he have anything else um like
I
coming out?
thought I saw something, but I cannot remember. I do think he is working on something. Let's do a little research.
Because I really appreciate his work. Like I said, I think he's
Yeah.
someone who really takes time with his craft and puts a lot of effort and conscious decision making when making a film. And in a world where it's nothing but fast pictures, just get them out, put them out, and just make money, I really appreciate it.
Oh, he has a movie coming out this year
Interesting. Oh
called
yeah, I see one called
Asteroid City. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Big names in that one. A lot of big names in that one.
This looks different too from what he's been doing. This is about space,
But
right?
he also has one more film coming out too called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. That's actually coming out sooner. It's listed as post production and it stars Ralph Fiennes, Benedict Cumberbatch, Dev Patel. But
Oh, I love Dev Patel.
aren't these all Brits?
Yes.
Dev Patel, Richard Ayoade, and Ben Kingsley. This is okay. I'm not
This
crazy.
guy's
Maybe it's
gaslighting
also
us.
because he has like a lot of like British actors in his stuff.
Yeah. Well, in Asteroid City, I will say Tom Hanks, Maya Hawke, Scarlett Johansson, like, and yeah. So he has some Americans in his new one. But you are right in the fact that he uses just a lot of European actors generally.
That
So we're not
this is a
crazy.
lot. This is a lot of information to discover.
I know.
But back to Grand Budapest Hotel. Um, One thing I also really appreciate in terms of a decision for this movie, there's clearly based on the time, based on the imagery and things like that, this is supposed to be like during an occupied European country during the Nazi regime.
Right.
I think in order to still make the time frame and everything pay homage to it and not completely wash history, I guess you could say, or like just like reimagine history a little bit differently. I really like the fact that rather than using like actual, like for example, like instead of the Nazi SS, it's the ZZ, like clearly
Yeah, yeah.
similar and things like that. But I think doing it was a smart decision because if they had, I think it would have been a different tone of film. Just because if you're gonna start like I don't think he could have made it like a Jojo Rabbit type of thing, right? Where
No,
it
no,
could have
no.
still had comedic bits. I think in nature it would have had to have moments that paid like respect and showed the truth and everything like that for it, or at least it would have been the wise decision to do without backlash.
I agree. And I do like the fact that at the end of the day, I think the tone of the movie would have definitely changed too if he were to literally put, Nazis in his movie. And again, I don't think that's what the movie was trying to focus on either. And it
Yeah.
was World War One and World War Two, right? It wasn't just World War One. And am
No, it
I
was just
right
World
there?
War II because it said it took place around like the 30s and 40s.
Okay, so yeah, so I do like the fact that it's kind of like satirical.
Yeah, but in a way where it's still respectful and like I could understand like, oh, like how do I add in like a military in the 40s without it being the
Like, oh,
Nazis, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And I
So
think he did it tasteful, so good on him.
yeah, and we can get like the undertones, like okay, there's a war going on, he's a refugee, blah 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 blah, and all things like that. But and we were able to do little nods to it without it becoming a huge integral part of the story. Um, do you have a particular like favorite scene or sequence or even chapter in this film?
I do love the part where they're all, I can't remember her name, Tilda Swinton's character died. And they're all in the house,
Yes.
they're reading the will, and her son is there, who's played by Adrian Brody. I think that, and Mr. Defoe is there also, by the way.
With the knuckle rings.
A great role for him. I think that is probably one, not if not the funniest scene, probably like second best funniest scene. I screaming,
Yes.
screaming.
Especially like with the argument between Adrian Brody and like they say some things that I'm obviously not going to say on here, but the way that they turn it around and just make it so funny when it's just so good. Like, and just the retort by like there's a part where Adrian Brody calls him a fruit and he's like, how am I supposed to react to that?
Yes.
Like taking a beat from his, poised attitude and everything and just genuinely being real and go, how do you want me to respond to this? How do you think I'm going to act at this? There's also, I think one of the most shocking scenes in this film is during the prison escape when they open up the latch and there's like a bunch of what I believe to be either prison guards or some of the like ZZ people playing a poker game. And there's one dude that just takes out a like 50-cent knife and just jumps down and kills all of them. And I forgot his name. I know it wasn't Pinky, but there's a great scene
Pinky.
where no, it was Gunther. It was Gunther. That was the guy who jumped down. His name was Gunther. And when Gustav gets reunited with Zero, he's like, hey, let me introduce you. This is Pinky. This is blah, blah, blah. This is blah, blah, blah. Gunther was slain in the catacombs, but we'll talk about that another time. It's just like the way that the dialogue is structured. It's and you can't have dialogue that well written without having such a strong performer behind it. So I don't think there's anyone else. And they said that Ralph Fiennes was actually like Gustav was made for him. Like there
Yeah,
was no
I
one
could
else
see
in
that.
mind when creating it. And I think it's perfect. And I'm excited because that one the Henry Sugar story and stuff like that Wes Anderson is doing next stars Ray Fiennes and Benedict Cumberbatch. So that should be a powerhouse of a film.
I am very excited for that. Very, I can't believe he has two movies coming out in the same year. It's so cool.
And no one's mentioned it, or at least I haven't seen it being mentioned.
No, I haven't either. Oh, okay. So one of them is going to be put directly to Netflix. That's why. And the other one's going to be in theaters.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, and then there was also I know there's another movie coming out this year, and this is a little bit off topic, but I say it because a lot of people who have been in like French Dispatch are going to be in this film. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's either a new Woody Allen film or
No,
Polanski
shut.
film being made.
No way.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up. I think it was Polanski. I'm gonna look it up and double check. Because Polanski
What?
is still okay. No, so it's not Polanski. So then it must have been well, maybe let me double check. So as director, oh yeah, yeah, Roman Polanski is making a new film, and it's called. So Woody Allen is the one. So they're both of them are actually making new movies.
Oh my God.
So
Just
there's one film called The Palace being made by Roman Polanski, and the cast is weird. The cast is some people you would expect and also people you wouldn't expect. So with The Palace, the star of it is Mickey Rourke
what?
and John Cleese
What?
and Fanny Ardant from The Woman Next Door.
Our girl?
Our girl, our home girly girl.
What? Bro, okay, but also, despite like controversy aside, aren't these people like 90 years old?
Yeah.
Like, how are they still doing? I know Roman Polanski's got to be like 85 at this point, at least, right? Am I
I
right
think
by saying
so.
that?
Yeah, he's old. He's old for sure.
And so is Woody Allen. So I'm just like, are you guys gonna
Well,
make
I
it?
think hold on. I got to look up and do the math cuz it says Roman Polanski was born in 33.
What? So he's 90 years old?
He's literally 90. Yeah, literally 90 years old making this
My
film.
friend, hopefully they make it through production because
That's
that's a
crazy. And then,
gamble.
like I said, there is a new Woody Allen film, and that's the one that has like a slew of French Dispatch people in that I was genuinely surprised at. So if I look up, where was it? You getting cozy, bestie? I hear some rustling.
Sorry, I'm getting a little cozy. Who's
There's,
in the Woody Allen movie? Who? What's the excuse?
I think it, or maybe I'm wrong. I know it had Timothy Chalamet. That's why I was surprised. Let me
Oh.
see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. I'm not going to start slandering people, but let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me.
Oh God.
Oh, I don't even know what is. Okay, let me look up upcoming projects for. Maybe I think methinks he was dropped from it or no longer a part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think he's a part of it anymore. But I remember like so many people are like, "What are you doing?" Because it was a Woody Allen film for sure, and like a lot of people dropped out after the backlash.
Yeah, they should have. I don't know how some of these people are still working with some of these absolutely crazy directors. Proven
Yeah,
crazy.
like it's just oh no, the movie did come out. The
What?
movie came out in 2019. It's called A Rainy Day in New York, and it's written and directed by Woody Allen, and it stars Timothy Chalamet and Elle Fanning,
Why?
as well as like Selena Gomez, Jude Law. Like there's a lot, Rebecca Hall, Diego Luna. Like there's a lot of people in this film. I thought
I
this was going to be an upcoming film. I'm
I
surprised
never
this.
heard I never heard of it. Did it do well? Because I've never
No,
heard of it. Okay,
absolutely
that's
not.
why.
It got like a
That's why.
38 on Metascore.
As it should. As
Yeah.
it should.
So weird. I'm surprised that even came out and kind of slipped underneath the radar.
That's crazy.
So okay, I wasn't going crazy, but regrouping back to Grand Budapest Hotel. Um, yeah, so like I'm trying to think if there's anything else that could be said about Budapest Hotel that hasn't been said already. It truly is just a phenomenal film, and not only a well-rounded action drama, but it's also probably one of like the most balanced comedies I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Yes. So, in terms of Wes Anderson films, which one would you say this is your favorite or definitely
Oh,
like
yes.
top?
It has
Yeah.
always been my favorite Wes Anderson film for sure. I just think the pacing, like that, I think the biggest complaint about Wes Anderson films can be that they feel so long. The pacing is done so well for this film for considering how
Yeah.
much bulk of information that you are getting throughout the entirety of this film. So I think it's his most balanced film. I do also really like if I were to say like my top 3, I really like Moonrise Kingdom. I think that has some like really, really funny scenes, and I like the imagery of Moonrise Kingdom. And then I think I really like Rushmore.
Okay. I haven't seen Rushmore, so that's going to be on my list.
Oh, I think you would like. Well, do you like the movie The Graduate?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like Rushmore is comparable. It obviously has its own little different flair, but Rushmore was one of like his first films, like after Bottle Rocket. And it says a teenager at Rushmore Academy falls for a much older teacher and befriends a middle-aged industrialist. Later, he finds out that his love interest and friend are having an affair, which prompts him to begin a vendetta.
That sounds funny.
And this is like early Jason Schwartzman and a much younger Bill Murray, and it's just really well done. It's one of my dad's favorites because there's a whole my dad's favorite band is The Who, and there's a whole montage done to like our favorite Who song, called "A Quick One While He's Away," and it is just a very tongue-in-cheek montage. It's so good. I think you'll really enjoy it. I think it's and it feels different. It feels like someone from Texas made it, not the
Oh my
European
god.
Wes Anderson that we feel like we know and things like that. But I think you'll enjoy it a
Okay.
lot.
Cool, cool. I will put that on my list. I would definitely say this is my favorite,
Hmm.
then Moonrise Kingdom, and then Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I thought Fantastic Mr. Fox would have been a little bit higher for you because I feel like out of all the different Wes Anderson films, that's the one I've heard you mention the most.
Yeah, because it needs more love. William Dafoe plays a character called Rat. I mean, why are we not talking?
You're
Like, it,
sold.
I don't think anybody else needs any more convincing. It's such a good movie. I do feel like I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. Mostly, I hear people talking about this movie and Moonrise Kingdom, but also I hear a lot about the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
So I want to give some love to Rat and to Fantastic Mr. Fox. So, but I haven't also seen. There's a few I haven't seen. I
There's
haven't
like
seen.
the aquatic life of Steve Zissou,
There's
um,
yes, and there's another one.
Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. Yeah. So I haven't seen a few. I guess I got to catch up a little bit in the universe. I did see French Dispatch.
I never
Definitely,
got around to see it. What did you think?
you know, so it's basically like an anthology. So there's three stories in one movie. And in my opinion, the first one is the best story, and the first one should have been a movie on its own. But it's very similar aesthetic, like very close aesthetic to the Grand Budapest Hotel. But in terms of like the comedy of the story, I do feel like it falls flat in comparison to his, some of his other movies,
Yeah.
like Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't think it was his best, but I don't think it was also his worst.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There's Darjeeling Limited, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, and Bottle Rocket. So in reality, he really hasn't, for how long his career has been spanning, I don't think he's done quite a bit. Well, I mean, with these two upcoming films side by side, that's actually like insane to have these two films coming out in like the same year.
Yeah.
That would be pretty insane if he ends up like if he ends up getting any type of director nomination, if he ends up going against himself.
I do feel like the fact that one is Netflix and one is theaters does make the difference though, because I feel like unfortunately with films and things like that coming out on streaming services, a lot of them fall under the radar after
Hmm.
a while. Like people do forget a lot of the stuff that comes out on Netflix. So I do feel like because it's probably like also, let's be real, award ceremonies don't like rewarding like streaming services movies.
Yeah.
So, um, but I am excited because the movie on Netflix is going to be like a comedy adventure. So I
Ooh,
love
okay.
that. I'm really excited. It's the Henry Sugar one you're talking about.
Oh, that should be a lot of fun. I really
So
like I would have never thought if you told me, "Oh, Ralph Fiennes in a comedy," I would have been like, "Really?" Because immediately you start thinking of him like Voldemort or Schindler's List and things like that. So he does like comedy so well, and I think more specifically, him and Wes Anderson just have clearly some type of great connection in order to create a character like that and bring it to life. Um,
yeah.
so, and also really impressive. Like, we gotta also pay like full blown like attention to Tony Revolori because the
Oh, he
fact
was
that
great.
this was like his first film, and the fact that he stood out, made a character of his own against probably some of like a long list of some of the greatest, most notable actors out there is insanely good. Like,
Yeah.
I do think that this was his first film that he's ever done.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna fact check that right now.
I know he was in Spider-Man and I remember him from something else too. I can't remember exactly. But regardless, such a cool performance, had great chemistry with Ralph Fiennes, so knocked it out of the. Oh, also great chemistry with what's her name? Agatha. I can't remember the actress' name. She's in everything.
Oh, Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse Ronan, great chemistry with her too.
So he had only been extras on TV shows and like little things here and there, and then he got like when I say little things, I mean like kid number 2 type role
Yeah.
before, and then immediately jumped into Grand Budapest Hotel.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Great story. I hope to
So
see him in more.
now I want to ask you a question with Wes Anderson, because I feel like there is both an argument and a defense that can be made for Wes Anderson. And that is, are do you think his style of directing is going to get old? Or do you think do you think it's going to be good no matter what circumstance? Because they all have, like, you can clearly distinguish a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
And right now it's for the good, but I wonder if he's going to kind of be forced to try something new. Um, because I feel like people are just going to start getting tired of it.
I think, well, one, I do think it's okay that he's found his niche. I think
Hmm.
he's an aesthetic director, and I think it works for him to do comedies and like these really whimsical movies, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. However, if you don't stay on top of your dialogue and storytelling, it will get old because aesthetic isn't enough to hold a movie together. And I did kind of see that a little bit in French Dispatch because I was a little disappointed in, personally, just just how the story went. I thought it could have been better. Wasn't bad, still enjoyed it, but it is one of those things where if he doesn't stay on top of the dialogue, making different kinds of stories while keeping the same aesthetic, I do think you're right, it's going to get tired.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because that's what I think is going to be like my concern, right? It's going to be like if Scorsese did nothing but gangster films. Like, he'll
Yeah,
still always have an
sure.
audience, but there's only so many stories within that like one niche that you can tell. Um, but clearly Scorsese has done a lot of different things. He's done an array of things, for better or for worse. But with someone like Wes Anderson, where it's so clearly identifiable, his work and his style, could he keep changing up the plot enough and still keep using that style and it feel new? I guess, you said you already saw a little bit of that in French Dispatch, but I guess only time will tell. And if anyone who's listening, as if we have no listeners, zero. But if like, do you have thoughts on that? Because I've often thought, like, it's worked for him so well so far. Is there going to be a point where it just no longer works and he has to try something different?
To
And
be honest, I think it also helps that he has like really no competition when it comes to that specific style of
yeah.
filmmaking. So
Well, like, for example, like Guillermo del Toro, I I was never a huge fan. I always appreciated his work, but
right, right.
in terms of directing and all things like that, I was just never attracted to his work. Or like there was nothing that captured me. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until he did something completely out of left field, like direct Nightmare Alley, that made me
Yeah.
completely change my opinion on him. So I
Yeah.
wonder, like, if Wes Anderson were to do something completely like out of left field that no one would watch and think, like, no one watches I just said the name of it. Why am I blanking on it?
Nightmare Alley, Nightmare
Nightmare
Alley,
Alley. My brain said Death Alley for some reason.
yeah.
But no one watches Nightmare Alley and goes, "Oh yeah, this is clearly a Guillermo del Toro film."
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, what do you think you would want to see from Wes Anderson doing something completely outside of the box?
It is really hard though because his specific aesthetic is very colorful and bright. But honestly, if he did like a horror movie, that knocked me out of left field.
Okay, I think he could do it. And you want to know why? Because I think he could nail, if he were to do like genuinely a house that Jack built type of movie where you have some type of killer, some type of monster with OCD, with a really, really deep connection to detail. I feel like that would work really well for his style of directing because I think
Right.
he really enjoys the detail of things. So imagine seeing like that scene of Jeff Goldblum being chased by William Dafoe, but now a much darker, full-blown serial killer plot. I feel like he could do really well. Obviously, the dialogue would have to be drastically different, but with lighting change and with some different characters, I feel like doing an intricate character like that could go awesome for him.
Honestly, I don't know also why he hasn't dived into period pieces more.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like 1800, because like that would also make sense with his aesthetic, like the detail in the palaces and the costumes. Um, I think that would just make a lot of sense for him. But if we're talking about like something different, then yeah, the horror. Don't give this man ideas, by the way, Bessie. Watch 2 years from now, he's gonna be like, "Oh, Wes
You
Anderson's first
know,
horror movie."
I think also, like, beside horror and like with the period piece, I think he could do like a movie about Napoleon
Oh,
really well.
sure, yeah,
Like, I
sure,
even think he could make it into like a comedy type thing and it would work really, really well. Um, but like, yeah, like he plays well. Like him and Baz Luhrmann remind me similarly of each other because their style is very over the top and overzealous. So I
yeah,
feel like if he really wanted to like go on the deep end and start doing like full grandiose sets and full, which he already has done, but a bit more into a different time period and stuff, he could totally do
sure,
that.
yeah, cool. I think we need to listen. If he comes out with something crazy the next 2 years, it was us.
It was us. It
It
was
was
us.
us. We
We
heard through the
planted the
grapevine.
seed. It is
Yeah.
what it is. Um, but with that being said, Grand Budapest Hotel. What is your thoughts? Your final thoughts? And if you currently do not own the DVD, would you own it?
I really, really love this movie upon a second viewing. I I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because I just don't I could show it to anybody. It wasn't that long. I can't really think of anything I would change, and I do not own it yet, but I am planning to buy the Criterion. I really love this movie. Probably one of my favorite comedies now.
I completely agree. This has always been like one of like the best comedies I've ever like seen, because all the detail and everything is just so fantastic. Um, I don't I own it on like digital, but because I bought it on digital before it was ever released on Criterion. So it's been one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I think I've been meaning to get around to buying it on Criterion.
Yeah.
It could be very well that I also own it and I just don't remember. So I'm kind of bad with that sometimes. But I do think it's a 10 out of 10. It's so rewatchable. And you don't
Yes.
have that functionality with a lot of his films. Like, this is easily the most one to watch, the one that's going to be the most liked by masses. And I feel like it's because of his effort, the well written characters, and overall, like, the gorgeous imagery of everything within the film. So, yeah, I got to give it a 10 out of 10. I honestly do think, like, it's probably in, like, my top 15 favorite films of all time, and
Hmm.
that rewatchability is off the charts. Like, I think it's so difficult to find a movie that you can just easily watch over and over and over again. And this is one of those films that if it's on TV, like, I'm gonna stop and look at it and I might watch a little bit of it, especially if it comes on like scrolling through cable, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't think you find a lot of newer films like that anymore.
No, no, definitely not. I told you, I don't remember the last time I went to the theater and like watched a legit comedy. So this was a nice refresh.
All right, so you heard it here. We got 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10s all across the board from us here at Purple Nuna Podcast. As always, thank you guys so much for listening to our little show. Be sure to check out the links in the description. You can see a short film that Savanna and I made several months ago, as well as you can
Woo!
see our links to our Instagram, to what will be there is our Likewise. So we're kind of off of Letterboxd. At least I'm off of Letterboxd and I've moved on to Likewise because I like Likewise more. But yeah, so all links and stuff like that to our own respective channels, accounts, all stuff like that will be listed below. And of course, as always, we must thank our Patreon members. So we have here Sensei David, we got Homeboy James, we got Danny Boy, and we have our buddy Ryan. So thank you guys so much for consistently being awesome supporters of the show. It truly, truly helps us. And if you would like a little cute, little cheeky shout out at the end of every episode, be sure to check out our dollar tier Patreon. $1 gets you a shout out in every single episode, as so long you are subscribed. And also just a quick, so not only a glimpse into what we're going to be talking about next, but I was recently on the Criterion Cast, the Criterion Reflections podcast, talking
Woo!
about one of my favorite films that I have totally formed my own little mental illness around, and that is Last Tango in Paris. So I got to talk about it with David Blakesley, and then soon David Blakesley is going to be on our show, and we're probably going to be talking about
Yeah.
something like Mama Roma. I even pitched the idea of maybe 2001 A Space Odyssey because we haven't touched it yet. And that's
Whoa.
one of his favorite films of all time. So that will be coming out in the future. And those will link and everything as they start leaking out and all stuff like that. And Bestie, do you know what we're watching next time?
I don't. What are we doing?
I got a wild movie for you.
Okay.
It is, and it's on the list. I'm not just going off the list, but I'm actually just so that way you can get a schmidge, a morsel, because you don't know anything about this film, as far
I
as I
don't.
believe.
I don't think so. What is it?
It's a movie from 2021
Okay.
titled John and the Hole.
Oh God. Okay. I feel like I know what this is, but I can't remember.
Okay. Just the quickest synopsis: a coming of age psychological thriller
Oh my
that
God.
plays out the reality of a kid who holds his family captive in a
You
hole
did
in
tell
the
me about
ground.
this. Oh my gosh.
This was one of those films where it's an indie film for sure. It definitely went off the radar. I only saw glimpses of this film and went, okay, I'm putting it on the list. And here we are going to talk about it next time on episode 90 of Purple Nuna Podcast. So there's your little snippet, your little teaser for the future. Go check out that film, review it with us, and listen to us as we talk about it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.